living life and realizing that everyone goes through toxic relationships at some point in their life, at some stage in their life, if not every stage in their life. It just depends. So first, you have to really acknowledge your own emotions. You have to acknowledge how you feel about toxic relationships and how you feel about that other person, but you have to acknowledge that it exists. I think when you're in a toxic relationship, that's the last thing on your mind is trying to forgive somebody else who has hurt you emotionally, psychologically, or physically harmed you. But you want to regain your freedom. You want to regain your control. And part of that is through the pathway of forgiveness. Once you're aware that it actually exists and you're not able to solve the issue yourself through self-awareness, through all the things we talk about in the book, get help. The ultimate goal is really for you to be happy, for someone to fill up your cup, to support you through your journey of life. And anyone who doesn't add to that cup, you let them go. Take measures to create boundaries, and those boundaries have to be abided by the toxic person that's giving the toxicity to you. And if they're not abided by, then you have to consider whether you want to stay in that relationship or you want to leave. If you believe that it's toxic to your own self and it's detrimental to your own self and it's causing chronic stress to your own self and it's basically shortening your longevity because of the chronic stress, then you have to take some action.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shayla Naid, and I'm here with Dr. Jerome Puryear, and we're here to discuss his book, The Mastering of Letting Go of Emotional Pain and Toxic Relationships. So please, before we get started, do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Jerome Puryear, Dr. Jerome Puryear. I'm a physician, health and wellness coach, trained in diagnostic radiology, board certified in obesity medicine and health and wellness coaching, and I am adamant about helping people live their best life in whatever way they want to and live a life of longevity. And most of the things that I will do and that I publish are along those lines.
And why would you write a book about emotional pain and toxic relationships? What inspired you?
I think living life and realizing that everyone goes through toxic relationships at some point in their life, at some stage in their life, if not every stage in their life. It just depends on where people are, whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's family, whether it's, just in a personal relationship. There's a level of toxicity that can be there. The question is, how do we deal with it?
And speaking about how we can deal with it, how can someone go about letting go of the past emotional pain that they have inside?
That's a very good question. I think first you have to really acknowledge your own emotions. You have to acknowledge how you feel about toxic relationships and how you feel about that other person, but you have to acknowledge that it exists. And if you don't acknowledge that the fact that this toxicity even exists, it's very difficult for you to even have a solution for it. So the first question that one would have to ask is, or ask themselves is, am I emotionally aware that this is a toxic relationship? And if so, what is toxic about it? And how does that toxicity really affect me? Does it make me, anxious? Does it make me insecure? Does it make me depressed? How does it make me feel? And when you can identify those things, you're on your way to at least solving the problem of having that toxic relationship go away.
Why is it so important to forgive somebody that has hurt you? Because we find that it's not as easy as one may say. It's easier said than done. But to forgive the person, is it more for them? Is it more for you?
Right. Yeah, that's a difficult question because I think when you're in a toxic relationship, that's the last thing on your mind is trying to forgive somebody else who has hurt you emotionally, psychologically, or physically harmed you. Mm-hmm. But I think the process of, and there are strategies in the book that kind of deal with this, and practical exercises that kind of help kind of elicit some of this. But forgiveness is not really for you. It's not really for them. It's really for you. Because you don't want to let them off the hook necessarily, but you want to regain your freedom. You want to regain your control. And part of that is through the pathway of forgiveness. And so when you realize that, that is part of letting go. It's forgiving them and gaining your independence back because you've lost it in this whole process. And that's a goal that should be there, is for you to gain your independence and gain your freedom and letting it go.
I mean, that's much easier said than done, because how often can you just easily forgive somebody after they've just caused trauma, has inflicted pain emotionally, physically, spiritually? How long do you usually see that it takes for somebody to forgive somebody? Or do you think that it's just by case?
No, I think it's going to vary from person to person, clearly. I mean, it's going to vary from the event. It's going to vary. I mean, all these things are just very individualistic in terms of the overall solution. Because in order for the things that we're talking about are chronic. We're talking about chronic stress. We're talking about acute stress. We're talking about chronic stress over a period of time that has really caused you harm, that's really caused your brain to have, some element of it that has gone awry, and that's depression, anxiety, however you process that trauma. But sometimes time is the best healer. But in the interim, if you haven't quite gotten to that point, you have to think about, once you're aware that it actually exists, and you're not able to solve the issue yourself through self-awareness, through all the things we talk about in the book, get help. Because that third party can maybe, take some layers off of things that perhaps you don't already see, and perhaps allow you to see things, allow you to visualize yourself being free, allow you seeing a pathway to getting free. And then forgiveness will eventually come. You're not going to live your life in resentment for the rest of your life and still be happy. The ultimate goal is really for you to be happy, for someone to fill up your cup, to support you through your journey of life. And anyone who doesn't add to that cup, you let them go.
Let them go. Speaking about letting go, setting boundaries is extremely important in relationships. How can you set boundaries with somebody that's emotionally consistently draining you?
Yeah.
You go both.
Well, first, I think you have to identify what it is that's draining you out of that scenario. Is it that they're manipulating you? Is it that they're controlling you? Is it that they're, physically harming you? I mean, what's the toxic element that's there? And then once you identify what that is, or you get help from someone else to help you identify with it, if you can't identify it yourself, then you have to take measures to create boundaries. And those boundaries have to be abided by the toxic person that's giving the toxicity to you. And if they're not abided by, then you have to consider whether you want to stay in that relationship or you want to leave. If it's a personal relationship, that's a choice you have. If it's a relationship at the job, then perhaps seeking other. It's not easy to do, because I know jobs are not easy to just switch from one to another, at least some of them aren't. And so, but all these things have to be thought about. But ultimately, you have to come back to, what is your vision and your values? And if somebody is destroying some of your values and, making you feel belittled and not supporting you, is that consistent with how you think about yourself? Because ultimately, you have to be able to think about yourself and what it is that you want. So some part of this is having a path of self-discovery for yourself. We have all these toxic relationships out here, but what's going on with you? And what is it that you value? And are you seeking out relationships that emphasize or support those values? And if you're not seeking those relationships out and you're seeking some other relationship, you have to go back to yourself and say, are these values true to me? Because you want to seek out people who support you, who want to see you become 100% of whatever it is you want out of life. And if people are tearing you down in the process, you need to get away from those people. You need to surround yourself with people who support you.
And surrounding yourself with people who support you, but still wanting to maintain a certain level of surface level, perhaps, relationships with the people that have caused you hurt or emotionally drained you, I'll say. What do those boundaries look like? Or because some people don't even know what boundaries are or how they can place them in their life. So what does a boundary look like?
Well, if somebody's trying to control you and they have a controlling relationship over you, then you need to put yourself in a position where that is no longer the case. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not always going to be easy to put yourself in that position, but you have to do that. And depending upon the scenario will depend upon the particulars, but you can't, if it requires you to leave that situation, then it does. But your boundary has to be respected, whatever it is, by the other person. And if it's not respected, then you have to, again, it goes back to you. If you are able to tolerate this, everybody's not the same. Some people would say that some relationships are toxic, others are not. But if you believe that it's toxic to your own self and it's detrimental to your own self and it's causing chronic stress to your own self and it's basically shortening your longevity because of the chronic stress, then you have to take some action. And that's what the whole thing is really about, is that, it's a chronic stressor, and chronic stress kills. And is it worth you dying early, you have to think of it in that whole spectrum. It's just not a situation that's happening. It's the overall thing of what is it doing to your body? What is it doing to your body?
And on that note, we would love to continue to ask a couple more questions. But please let us know where we can find this amazing, wonderful book that will help a lot of us in these situations.
You can definitely find it on my website, drjeromepuryear.com, drjeromepuryear.com, or on amazon.com, either one.
Beautiful. Well, until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.